Okay, here we are again. Welcome back, everybody. This is the We Quit Booze Brothers, which is a podcast where we try to have honest, no fluff conversations about our various experiences of quitting alcohol. And with me, as always, is my brother Matt. Hello, Matt.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, we are back, and it's very hot. I think it's hot everywhere in Europe at the moment. It's got ridiculous. So, if you can hear whirring in the background, there is a fan underneath my chair because it is that hot. But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. We are super pleased to be back. We've got another cool topic, we think, one that's really interesting. It was one you came up with, Mark. We have covered some of this before, but I think it's such a key topic because it really, it's about how you live your life when you stop drinking. And really, so I'll let you introduce it, and then let's dig in.
Let's do it. Yes, you're right. It is absolutely boiling. We always talk about the weather, but anyway, it's
British,
either
yeah,
boiling or it's terrible. It doesn't seem to be any middle ground, although there is sometimes. But anyway, there you go. So, yeah. So the conversation that we just wanted to touch on again, I think, and it is important, it's relevant, and it's one that it sort of keeps creeping back in. Like most sobriety topics, there's no one and done. You don't just give up drinking and then that's it. You never look back. It never impacts your life. It never invades your thinking ever again. These things tend to sort of linger around and sort of come back around. And I've had a few of these instances recently and maybe just think, well, it's worth having a conversation about it. And it's really just the how you structure your life as a non-drinker. I think the first thing to say about it is have a structure. That's the
yeah,
that's the key. Um, I think leave as little to chance as you possibly can. Don't try to make decisions about your sobriety in the moment. Try as much as you possibly can to create a structure that removes all temptation, that doesn't put you in situations where you might find it more challenging, where you might find it more difficult. Really, really get out in front of it. And I think I was thinking about it earlier, and I think there's real safety in structure, even after 8 years or whatever it is for me. There are very few these days, I have to say. I don't miss it anymore. I don't really yearn for it. I don't even cover the sort of, there was a long time where I thought maybe one day I will drink and that'd be great. I don't cover any of that. But I do equally find myself sometimes on a Friday or a Saturday, and if I haven't thought ahead, it can feel like dead time. You think, why does it feel like that? And you think, well, of course, ordinarily, a few years ago, I'd have been drunk by now. I'd have been
yeah.
drunk. You feel that dead time. So the first thing you need to do is have a structure. So maybe I'll just sort of pause there because it felt like you were about to say something on that. But
I was just literally about to agree because it's something I was thinking exactly the same thing. Booze is a time killer, right? That's one of the things it does. And whilst obviously we drank it for many different reasons, obviously at the beginning it's to get that sort of Dutch courage, I'd say, and then you get the enjoyment stage, and then it becomes a habit, and then we all know where it goes after that. But you know, the thing is, when you drink, there's never really any, what am I going to do on Friday and Saturday nights? You never really need to ask yourself the question. It's just, where am I going to be doing it? Because it's always about drinking. The drink always came first.
yeah,
I want to make that clear. So, you know, a sober routine for me is really about filling time. Um, and I've talked a lot about my first 2 weeks when I quit drinking, which is in the book. But what I want to do now is talk about what my week looks like now. You know, one of the things, so I'm jumping around here, but that's the fun of this whole thing, is that we can do that. And I was thinking about what are one of the things that really have sort of taken over, and I think exercise. I'm no gym guru, I'm no you know marathon runner, but I like exercise, and it's really been I found solace in exercise. but it doesn't have to be that, because I think we bang on that drum quite a lot, and I'm totally conscious that it's not for everyone. You know, my
Mm.
wife leads a life where she drinks very, very little, but exercise isn't really in her life. She does, a lot of other things. She kind of runs the household really. But I was thinking about a friend of mine, and he's a joint friend. You know him well too. A friend of mine from university actually, and he doesn't drink much anymore at all. He really suffers with headaches, and so he just avoids it. Never had a problem at all, but he's always had a hobby for like building things. He's always built motorbikes, and it's made him no money, and in fact it's probably cost him thousands, but I think it's made him rich in terms of sort of well-being, and he's always had something to do. So on those times where I phoned him on a Saturday and said, "Oh, what?" And I'm hungover and thinking, "Oh God, I just can't wait for it to be 6 o'clock." And I'm like, "What did you do today?" And he was like, "Oh, I was up super early because I had this new gearbox delivered, and I've been doing it all day and fitting it, and I think it's going to be running tomorrow." And you're like, "That's great." And for many years, I think I had slight sort of jealousy because I was thinking, "God, I wish I had something like that in my life." So yeah,
Mm.
long answer to taking over, but you know, booze is a time killer, and you have to find something to replace that.
Yeah, it absolutely is. That's one of the biggest noticeable differences for me is just the amount of time which I seem to now have that I can do other things with. And it is about doing other things. I think, if
Mm,
you somebody that has misused alcohol in any way, chances are you've got that sort of addictive personality or whatever. But you can channel that into healthy addictions. Healthy, maybe addiction isn't the right word, but things you become passionate about. It could be exercise, it could be nutrition, it could be reading, it could be building a business, it could be
mm,
what you're you know what I know the guy you're talking about, building, being creative with your hands.
yeah.
But there is a need, I think, to create some structure, and I have done that. My structure now at the weekends weirdly involves mornings. I do an awful lot now in the mornings. I really enjoy what that gives me. I love the fact that at 11:30 on a Sunday, I've already done a whole bunch of things, and I feel I not only get the benefit of the things I've done, which for me typically involves some exercise, quite often involves doing this podcast, and other things that I do just to sort of get my week in order and be ready for the week. It makes you feel good because you've done those things. It also makes you feel, really good. Well, good because of the things you've done, but also you feel good because you've done those things. If that makes sense. So I just think the point is that, and I think depending on where you are in the journey, it's worth. I do this sort of really trying to bring intention into pretty much every day. What is it I'm going to be doing today? What's my intention today? What sort of things do I want to do? And don't be wanky about it. Like, what's my big goal today? You don't have to go, full Tony Robbins here. But I think just um, start with the end in mind. What does a good day look like today? What does a good week look like? And I've said this before on this podcast, but I'll say it again just in case anybody hasn't heard it. My one really good decision to stop drinking alcohol led me to a whole series of really good knock-on decisions, which included getting into shape, focusing on nutrition, focusing on my mental health, my mental well-being. Focusing on me a little bit more without sounding too, pithy, but um, reading more, creating more in terms of, the businesses that I'm involved in, being more present and available to my friends and to my family and to my kids, being the role model that I want to be for my kids and for my wife. And I don't hit home runs every day. Nobody does. And I do sometimes do things that I, feel like I wish I hadn't. But over the sort of long term, and generally speaking, by quitting alcohol, creating space to do all of that work, I've landed in a place that I'm just super happy with. And yeah, like I said, and I feel you get sort of compound interest. I feel like it's kind of cumulative. It sort of builds and it builds. because you're not getting fucked up by alcohol all the time. That's what would always knock me into six. Sometimes I've had good weeks and then I'd go and get hammered at the weekend and it'd be like I'm back to square one again on Monday. It felt like I never managed to get any momentum in my life. And I feel like since I quit, I've got that momentum. So that's, yeah, a big deal, big thing for me.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting you talk about that momentum because I think when I was drinking, I just didn't have any really. I don't know how I got things done. I just don't
I
know.
don't think you did. I
I
don't
don't think
think
you
you
did.
did.
I don't think.
Think
I think
how I
when I
got
did
things
it,
done.
everything. Yeah, I just mooched about pouring drinks.
Mm,
But yeah, I took actually. I was thinking about this as well, and I was thinking, what do we say to people? How do we convince people? Because I think boredom is the real worry. I think that's a really big thing for anybody considering giving up drinking. That what am I going to do? So I mapped out my week. I don't do this like regularly, but maybe I should. But it was quite an interesting exercise. So I just wrote down, okay, Monday to Sunday, what am I actually doing this week? If you'd asked me that 10 years ago, I'm like, oh, I don't really know. I'm going to work.
mm,
So here it is. So Monday night, you obviously Monday work. Monday night, gym, 6:30 p.m. 7:30 p.m. ish dinner. Then evening do podcast with my brother. Ta-da! Doing this now. Tuesday morning, I will get up for a run. 7:30, I'll go for a run, and then tomorrow night, I'm going to the cinema with my son. It's like the cinema festival in France, and it's very cheap. So I thought, why not profit from that? Wednesday night, I'll probably go to the gym and then just have some dinner and chill. Thursday night, my daughter's away at the moment. She doesn't like fish, but the rest of the family do. And I know a really nice fish restaurant, so we're going to go there. That's really cool. Friday morning, I'll probably go for a run. Friday evening's free, but we always tend to do something nice. Saturday morning, I always go to the gym. This week, I have to take my son to a train station very early, so that'll be doing that. And then Sunday mornings, I generally go for a run, and then quite often we do this podcast. So
mm,
without any real thought, but I've mapped out something that there's not that much time for boredom in all that, and that's
no,
that's what you get to do. That is killing the boredom. That's killing the time that if it had been boozing, it would have been Monday night dinner, drinking, possibly Tuesday, maybe work, try not to drink. Wednesday, you get the
yeah,
gist.
yeah,
So yeah, and then just to finally, my final thing, which is something you mentioned, and it's really, really true. And I think, so many people get caught up in a lot of this, which is, these things on Instagram or whatever about you have to achieve big and you have to have your outcomes for the week and everything set. It's good to have a few things in mind. I really do believe that. But it's also good to think about, maybe just a couple of things. I think if you can do a couple of things a year that are kind
mm,
of a bit different, that's a cool
mm,
thing to do. So last year, my big things were I volunteered at the Olympics. That was a really big thing, obviously. And then I did a talk about sobriety at work, and that was a really big thing for me, and I feel happy that I've done those.
mm,
That was good for me, if you know what I mean. So
mm.
this year I'm going to put myself out there again. I want to do another talk related to work as well. And I was thinking to myself, yeah, let's get those couple of big things in. But,
Mm.
but that's it. And then the rest of it is just, you find those things to fill your time.
Yeah, and I think that sort of sums it up really, the importance of routine. You just mapped out
Mm,
your week, and I know that's a pretty typical week for you.
yeah.
Cinema, gym, running, work, family time, and they're the macro ingredients for a great life. The sort
Mm,
of the real balance. People talk a lot about balance, wanting to achieve balance, and you've sort of described it. And I think what's interesting about that is that it doesn't happen by mistake. It happens by design. You purposefully have decided that they're the things that you're going to do. I do too. I won't run you through my week, but it's not dissimilar at all.
mm, mm. Very, very
And
simple.
so that was really it, really, just that intriguing element of, and like you say, once you really get into it and you start to see the benefits, you see the results of your improved relationships, you see the results of improved fitness, health, making things, just doing what is encourage you to just lean into things that you probably always loved doing, but alcohol definitely got in the way, and now you've got that spare time and that free time to find it. And the sentence that I wrote down before we jumped on here is that it allows you to build a life that you're not conflicted by. And I think that's what's really, it's a big takeaway.
Yeah,
I'm not conflicted, but challenged by it from time to time, struggle with it from time to time, but hand on heart, you feel like you're living a pretty wholesome existence. And it's something that I'm very proud of. And I know that you are too.
yeah, 100% agree. I think that's a really good way to finish. I did just want to add a tiny little thing. It's been nearly 2 years. We started doing this podcast on the 9th of July, 2023. So,
No way.
yeah,
No way.
can
I
you
didn't
believe it?
realize.
So, for all you mad people and wonderful people who listen, who stuck with us, who leave the comments, who give us likes, there's not thousands of you, but it doesn't matter one bit. We're just really happy that you tune in, you listen, and hopefully our conversations help. So, thank you for a great
This
2 years.
is this is great. I mean, just really quickly, this podcast is a really good example of everything that we've talked about on this podcast. Um, because we've stuck with it, and we would never have stuck with this when we were drinking. We
No,
wouldn't. We'd have always said, "Oh, I can't be bothered. Let's not do it. Should we do it
we've
next
done it
week?"
for a
Oh,
couple of weeks and then it would just drift
yeah.
out.
And it's exactly what we thought it would be. It's an opportunity for you and I to talk. It's an opportunity for us to share our experiences, and it definitely helps. Lots and lots of people. We get lots of feedback. Enough for us, enough for it to be just another thing to be, to feel good at. So whatever it is that you're thinking about doing, whatever it is that you think you'd like to do, your new sober routine should include making sure that you go out and you do those things. But yeah, like Matt said, if you've been listening to us for 2 years, then you must be, well, thank you very much. We haven't obviously got any older in that period, but yeah, it's been a blast. So, all right, okay, well, happy to. Is there anything else, Matt, or should we leave it
No,
there?
I think leave it there. I just say, as I say, keep it coming with the comments. We do read them, we do respond. And what do you think we've missed? What else should you build into a sober routine? Let us know.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks ever so much, everybody. Thanks for getting this far. Thanks for listening. As I always say, never quit quitting. It's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from him.